Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Cupixel studio and welcome to another fun Learn with Michael's class. My name is Haley and I am the creative director here at Cupixel. And I'm so excited to join you today to make these fun, summery citrus coasters. So this is a lot of fun. I've made many of these, super easy and straightforward. And this is just the tip of the iceberg of what you can create with the Cupixel app. So speaking of, if you haven't already downloaded the Cupixel app, please do so now. We're going to be using the app and tracing technology for the first step. So I'll give you all some time to download the app if you haven't already. And you can also enter in this promo code here to get, I believe it's 2 weeks free access to absolutely everything on the app. And as you're all making your way to the app, I'll tell you a little bit about it if this is your first introduction to Cupixel. So Cupixel is an app that combines AR-powered, augmented reality-powered tracing technology with artist-led instruction to help enable art creation for the masses. So if you see on the phone screen in front of me, I have a ton of different categories here, all this different artist-led content to guide you in creating and experience the joy in creating. So luckily for you, you get me in real time today, so we're not going to be using anything but the tracing technology. So I will give you all just a second to download the app and make your way into the home screen. You can always use this code after this class. You don't need to enable the free trial to enjoy this class with me today. So you can always enter this in afterwards if that's easier for you. So materials, what we need today. Of course, we need our ceramic coasters. I am working on a 4-inch round coaster. I've got a canvas panel. This is going to assist in the app kind of helping us trace on the coaster, and I'll get to that in a second. Same thing with this black paper here. This device stand, this Cupixel device stand is perfect for any tracing that you may do with the app. And I just want to let you know that if you continue with your membership after the end of your free trial, we will ship you one of these stands for free. So if you don't have the stand today, you can use a tall cup like this one. Don't have water in it if you're going to be placing your smartphone on top, but you can definitely still get a feel for the tracing technology if you have a tall cup or something that you can just elevate your phone on. So we've got the stand, we've got our canvas, we've got our coasters, we've got a pencil for tracing and a kneaded eraser. A regular eraser would be fine, but on ceramic, this will really help us kind of pick up any extra pigment to avoid smudging. I've got some brushes in various sizes. These are just the Artist Loft brushes. I've got 2 flat brushes and 2 round brushes, but I would say you definitely want these guys, something that's flat, medium sized, and then something that's tiny and pointed or rounded. Then, of course, I've got my paints. We are using the FolkArt multi-surface satin paints today, so these will be great on ceramic. And for mixing my paints, creating some fun citrusy colors, I've got just a paper plate to use kind of as a palette. And then, of course, cup of water and some paper towels for cleaning my brushes. That was a mouthful, but I am joined by Nick on the cameras today and Shirley on the Zoom chat. So if you have any technical questions for Shirley or for us, Shirley can answer any questions you might have, or she can also relay any questions to me that you guys might have for me. So I think let's dive in, shall we? And I'll repeat how we get to the tracing technology for any people that are, a little behind or coming in. I do need a sip of water though. Excuse me. Okay, so when you open the app, you enter the app, this is what you'll see on the main feed. So you'll see that street style portrait course, which is coming soon. We're very excited about it. The June challenge, all that good stuff. That is the main feed. At the bottom of your screen, you'll see these tabs: Home, Categories, My Studio, Spaces, and Browse. We are going to go in that middle icon there, the plus sign, that is My Studio. So tap that, and then you'll see 3 tabs at the top: Gallery, Photos, and Text. So just to give you an idea of what this might mean, photos means you can upload any photo from your camera roll and either trace it as is or kind of adjust a digital outline and trace that. So you can create with your memories, and you can also create like custom text that's funny. Custom text to add to your artwork as well. But gallery here, we have a ton of licensed artworks for you to create with for free. We're going to be using the citrus slice today. So that is the one right at the top. So when you see that, tap this image, citrus slice, you'll see that green check mark. And now with our phone on the stand, I'm going to press start. And the camera is going to open and it's going to search for my surface. So I'll go back just to show you again. Trace. Boom. So this is why I have the canvas panel, because what Smart Trace does, and by the way, if you don't have Smart Trace on, go ahead and turn it on. Turn that icon to like that greenish color. What Smart Trace does is it searches for 4 corners of your paper, your canvas, whatever it is that you're working on. It needs to find 4 corners. And because the 4 corners are all in frame of the camera and there is a darker background underneath it, the app is able to find it. If I were to just kind of keep this white panel on this white table, the app might have some trouble finding it because there's no contrast between the background and the corners. So hopefully that makes sense. Bring your small canvas panel in front of your phone or underneath it, depending on what you are using, a stand or a cup. But in front of the camera, all 4 corners in frame. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring my coaster in play, and I'm just gonna place it on top of my canvas, nice and, in the center. Doesn't need to be perfect, because what we're going to do now is we are going to use the drag feature. So tap the screen and you see drag on the right. Tap that, and we're going to kind of pinch out to make this outline bigger, and then drag it to position it in the center of our coaster. And if it's easier for you to enlarge it and then kind of move your coaster around instead of moving the outline around, you can absolutely do that. But I think this looks pretty good to me. You can zoom in just to make sure that everything is aligned. I think maybe it's more or less good. I have to say, I don't think I've ever gotten it that perfect, for lack of a better word, in a quick second. So if you need to take your time with that, take your time. But from here, we are going to just look through the screen. You can pinch to zoom in, and you're going to trace. So I'll repeat this one more time. Let's go back. I'll go back to oh, and look at that, a time lapse. Something to shout out. Every time you use the tracing technology, the app generates a time lapse of your creation. So really cool. You can find all your time lapses from the main feed. But speaking of the main feed, let's go back. So if you're just entering the app now, this is what you'll see. Bottom of your screen, you see 5 tabs. We're going to go to that center tab, that plus sign icon, My Studio. We're going to tap Gallery. You're going to tap this citrus slice. See that green check mark? Press start. And because, again, all 4 corners of my canvas panel are visible in frame against this dark background, Smart Trace detected it and projected my citrus slice right onto it. And because I already used the drag feature with this image, it's positioned where I want it to be. So if you are just now for the first time projecting onto your canvas panel, you want to bring your coaster in, tap the screen, use drag, and kind of pinch to enlarge and then drag to move. I don't want to touch it because it's, like I said, it's never been this perfect on the first go. So I'm going to pinch the screen to zoom in now, or pinch outwards rather. And I like to leave my transparency bar about halfway so I can see the lines on my screen and the lines that I'm about to make right now. And then just looking through the screen, bring your pencil in and start tracing. We'll zoom in. Definitely take your time. I'm going to apply more pressure than I usually would so you can all see. But don't worry about creating like perfectly straight lines or perfectly even sections, because in reality, citruses, they're organic, right? Anything in nature is a little funky. So don't worry about being super, super precise. Let's just take our time tracing this outline. And then afterwards, together, we will bring it to life with our paint. Sorry, I'm going to take my bracelets off. They're getting in the way. Switch them to the other hand. I'm curious if anyone has any fun summer plans. I don't know, maybe you guys are making these coasters for a summer party, or maybe you're making them just to kind of switch up your decor for the summer, or just make it more, bright and vibrant. But just also in general, does anyone have plans for the summer? It's not quite summer yet, but I have to say I'm in full summer mode. I just returned from a beach getaway, so it's summer, if you ask me. It's summer. My favorite season. It's my birthday season too. Cancer season is upon us. So if there's any other cancers in the chat, let me know. And also let me know if you're just as sensitive as I am.
We have someone visiting from Sweden, Monica.
Wow, visiting from Sweden.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Sweden's up there on my travel bucket list for sure. That's awesome. So
They live in Sweden and they're visiting here.
are you visiting now, or are you visiting in the summer? That's really cool. Do you have family here? What are you coming to see? Let me know. I'm curious. How about you, Shirley, Nick? What are you guys doing?
Yeah.
Nah. You're going to the Cape? Yes, we're based in Boston. So any other New Englanders too, let us know. The Cape is a classic. It's a go-to. I'm from Rhode Island, the ocean state. So summers there are nice, but quite busy. So
Monique from Sweden is visiting her family here.
Oh,
she says Sweden is amazing. You should go in August.
Go in August. Maybe not this August. I've got a trip coming up in July. I'm going to Italy, but I would love to explore Sweden. I'd love to explore all of Europe, really. I haven't, whoops, you guys just see me slip. I haven't traveled much out of the country until recently. So yeah, if you like Sweden and you think, based off of our 16 minutes together, if I'll enjoy it, I'll take your word for it, Monique. Thank you. And I hope you enjoy visiting family. All right, so now I've got every section traced, looking good. Again, not worried about any subtle imperfections or anything like that. What I'm gonna do now is just kind of trace that outer circle. And you'll actually see that there's two lines, that thin one and then that thick one. I'm going to ignore the thick one. This thin one is the only one that I'm going to trace. So just keeping a fairly light hand, loosen up so it's a little bit easier to create, those curved lines.
Did you say, mention the smart trace on off?
I did very briefly. So Shirley asked if I mentioned the difference between smart trace on and off. What you're seeing me use right now is smart trace. What smart trace does is these three main things. It detects your drawing surface. So in this case, it's this canvas panel, even though we're drawing on the coaster, it detects 4 corners. If it finds 4 corners, that's the drawing surface, projects right onto it. It tracks it as well. So check this out. If I were to move the canvas, as long as the corners, all 4 corners remain in frame, Smart Trace will continue to track it. And you can actually turn that off as well. In the same way that you can turn Smart Trace off. You can auto track on or off. And then the third thing that Smart Trace does is it adjusts the image to match the angle that you're projecting. So for example, you have your phone at like a 45-degree angle on the stand, right? But you have your paper or your canvas flat on the table. It will adjust the angle so that when you do trace on your surface, it's precise and it's proportionate. So that's Smart Trace. What happens if you turn Smart Trace off is you get just a simple projection. Might be a little hard to see. Pretty much done with tracing, so I'm just going to move this out of the way so you can see what I'm talking about here. But you see how I have my phone on the stand at this angle and Smart Trace is off. You see how this will create kind of like a skewed image where citrus is just larger up there and a little bit smaller down here. That's why Smart Trace off is something that we recommend doing with like a tall cup. So for example, I'll bring my coffee in. Can I move my stand out of the way, Nick? All right. I can just kind of place my phone right on top. And then if it's not tall enough or not big enough, you can use the wide angle camera. And then position. So it's not as, precise and accurate, and it does kind of limit you and, the size that you can trace on and, what you can trace on. So Smart Trace with the stand is, of course, it's our bread and butter, but you can do the simple flat projection, parallel projection, if that is easier for you, just to kind of get the hang of it. But I am done tracing. So I'm going to put the device to the side unless anyone would like to see again. What do you think, Shirley?
For now, let's just go with it.
Move on? All right, let's move on. All right, so I'm seeing I did not finish that outer circle. But I have everything kind of mapped, so good enough to finish it free-handed. And again, does not need to be perfect. So this is our citrus outline. We are just about ready to paint. But what I'm going to do first is take my kneaded eraser, and I'm going to use it to both clean up any mistakes or any lines, but also just soften my lines. So take a good look, because there's a chance you might not see my outline as clearly on my coaster in a minute. So I'm just using an edge of this eraser to clean up some lines. And areas where I really just want to make sure that there's not a lot of like pencil marks that can interfere with the paint is those areas outside of these triangular sections, because that is where the lightest of your color is going to go. And we don't want this pencil shining through. So just cleaning up some lines. And then I will roll this into a little ball, warm it up in my hands. I'm just going to either roll it or just kind of stamp and pick up some of this extra pigment. Because again, I just don't want any of the pencil to kind of blend in with my paint and create something that's muddier than I would like. So is this too much, Nick? Is that okay?
Yeah.
You can see it? Okay, cool. All right. So it's smooth sailing from here on out. We're just gonna paint. What will you paint is the question. There are, I don't. Do you want me to move it out of the way? Yeah. Yeah. Yes. So the canvas, that was strictly for smart trace recognition to help us with tracing, finding our coaster. But you don't need this anymore if it's going to distract you.
Can you show just for a second the use of a cup and only the coaster without the
Sure.
sublimation?
Yeah. That's a good idea. Yeah. Because if you are using smart trace off with like a cup and not a stand, you don't need that canvas. So let's go back. Nick, can you see? All right, start. We'll bring the transparency bar up so you can see the lines. Maybe a little bit difficult on the black paper underneath. But from here, my phone is flat, the projection is flat, so things should be aligned. If I were to tap drag, Smart Trace is off for that simple projection. Drag to match the size of my coaster here. And then if I'm happy with where it is, can pinch to zoom in again and start tracing. But again, I am using wide angle. Let's see what happens if we don't use wide angle. We won't need to shrink our outline as much. It would be a lot easier. Right? All right, so yeah, that's with Smart Trace off. The only thing about this, and this is why, one of the many reasons why I will always go with Smart Trace is you move your phone, your cup, your coaster in the slightest, then you'll have to realign as you're tracing. So I hope that answered anyone's questions, or I hope that made sense. The clear difference between Smart Trace on and off. I'm gonna put my device to the side once more, and my coffee to the side after I take a little sip, because why not? We're here. Okay. Now let's get into painting. What are you going to paint? You have options. You could paint a lime slice, you can paint an orange slice, you can paint a lemon slice, and you could paint a grapefruit slice. And I think I'm going to show you guys the grapefruit slice, what colors we can use for that, because I do think that's going to be the most complicated color mixing. So if you want to follow along with that, you can. But let me just tell you this. If you're creating an orange slice, if you don't have orange paint, you need yellow, red, and white. If you're creating a lime slice, you need green, maybe a little bit of yellow and white. But if you're creating a grapefruit slice, you will need a little bit of red, lots of yellow, and white.
We have Dina who's going to do a lemon.
Dina's doing a lemon, so you only need yellow and white. That's it. I would say lemon is definitely the easiest one because any yellow can work with it. Whereas with this green right here, it's a bright green, but it's not exactly that lime green. So you might have to mix a little bit of yellow with it. But let's do a grapefruit because I think that color mixing will be, if anything, the most complicated. So no matter what, you're going to need white. But I have my red, engine red, and daffodil yellow. Give them a nice shake, but I'm going to use quite a bit of yellow because I want to create that warm, vibrant kind of red. Whereas if I were doing like orange, creating orange, I would do less red, more yellow. This one we'll see. All right. So I think I'll definitely need some more yellow and then a little bit of white, actually quite a bit of white. And what we're going to do first is we're going to mix our colors or our color for this section, the darker section. Mix our color, we'll create our color, and then we'll take some of that, just the tiniest bit, mix it with a ton of white, and that's how we'll get that inside, you know, the lighter part of the citrus. All right, so I'm gonna grab just my small round brush to mix these colors. I always like to wet my brush a bit, dampen it, just so it doesn't soak up all the paint. I'm gonna grab a little bit of yellow and some red. See what happens when we mix these. I definitely need more red. Grab some more red. And then right away, that's a dark red. I'm gonna have to lighten it up with some white.
Haley, for those who are doing a lemon, is there a specific yellow?
That's a good question. So Shirley had asked if someone is doing a lemon, is there a specific yellow that you should use? I would say if you have a lemon yellow, perfect, but you really can use any kind of yellow. I would say not yellow ochre, maybe not like a golden yellow, but like a bright yellow, a cadmium yellow, primary yellow, lemon yellow, that would all work. This daffodil yellow would work. And if it's too warm and too bright, if you have the tiniest bit of green, you could put that in there to kind of neutralize it, bring it back. But this is an okay color mixture. I want to add some more red and white, and then again, some more red, tiniest bit of yellow, and we'll see. Okay, so that's looking better. But I want to know, is anyone creating a grapefruit, or is anyone interested in creating a grapefruit? Or would you prefer to see another color or a different citrus? Because I'm seeing that this fire engine, engine red, I'm assuming like a fire truck, it's very warm and very deep. So it's hard to create that vibrant, bright pink that you see in grapefruit. Let's see if we mix in some yellow. That help?
I have two people who want to see a lemon.
Two people want to see a lemon? Then let's do lemon. Why not? Let's do lemon. And if anyone wants to see some more color mixing, different options, let me know. But I don't have a lemon here, so let's make a lemon together. All right, so I already have my white and my yellow on my plate. So I'm just going to grab my yellow. I'll probably be using all of this. I'm going to take a little bit of white to create my darker yellow color. Then I'll take what's left on my brush, kind of bring it to the side, and I'm going to mix in a ton of white. Cool. And that right there, I think that's good enough, these two shades to use for your lemon. And
if possible, when you are painting, for those who are doing an orange, like tell them what, when you're using the yellow, what they should use.
yeah, okay. Yeah, so with the yellow, the thing is with the grapefruit, The color mixture might more or less be the same. The thing is, like I said, with this red, it's quite deep. So you can create a nice orange shade with it by doing some yellow and a little bit of red. I would say start with a tiny bit of red, mix it in with your yellow, and then reevaluate. Right away, I know I need more red, but it's easier to add more red than it is to add more yellow, more yellow, more yellow, because red, especially a red that's this deep, can really overpower the bright yellow. So I would say mix together a little bit of red with some yellow until you find your perfect orange shade, right? So let's just do this now because everything else will be very straightforward after this. Color mixing, I'm happy to help. So I would say even more red. Get that perfect orange look. So I don't have any white mixed in here. I might have a little bit from my brush, but the white is what kind of creates a more pastel, brighter color, a more pastel, lighter color, but something like yellow will make something brighter. So I would just mix in some red and some yellow until I get that perfect orange. This I think would be good, maybe a little bit more red. And then take some to the side like we did here and mix in that white. And then that will be the color that you kind of put on the inside. I hope that makes sense. And then if you were to do lime green, I would say start with mostly green, add some yellow, add more yellow if you need it to make it that bright green. And then again, take what's left on your brush, put it to the side, mix in a ton of white. All right, let's dive in. I'm actually going to continue using this same brush, and I'm going to start with the lighter of the two colors. So what you can do, and this is up to you, depending on how light or dark your pencil lines are, if you wanted to, you could paint the whole, like a first coat all over in that lighter color, then go in and emphasize, the darker sections. You can do that. But just be mindful that if you have a really thick paint or you put on a really thick coat, you might lose your outline that you traced. So instead, I'm just going to take that really light yellow and I'm going to start by going into the sections or that line that separates each section. Again, does not need to be perfect. Take it nice and slow. By the way, if you don't want the color to be on the sides of your coaster, you can take a second now and grab maybe like some masking tape and put it around. But what I like to do is paint the top, and then after it's dry, I let it dry, I'll pick it up and then I can kind of paint it around the sides. And I would just do, for example, this orange, this color that I used here to paint the sides. And if I were to do this yellow, if I want to paint the sides, I'll use that darker mixture.
Can you paint with regular acrylics?
Yes, you can paint with regular acrylics. That is a good question. Um, the thing is that you really want to make sure that you just lock in your work before you use your coaster. And the same would go for this too. I would say acrylic, because this is a multi-surface satin paint, it doesn't dry as quickly on the ceramic. So it's just slightly easier to work with, but you can absolutely use acrylic. I think one of these, if not both, were just regular plain acrylic, but I sprayed it with just a clear acrylic coat on top. You can use a water-based glue spray as well, like a Mod Podge spray, any sealant that you have. But I would say let it dry overnight before you lock it in. So I'm just painting this edge that goes all the way around, leaving an edge, or this edge that I kind of outlined here. Again, I'm not worrying about it being perfect, but I'm not painting it all the way to the side because we're going to go in with that darker yellow there. And maybe it goes without saying, but the reason why we start with the lighter color is because it's a lot easier to cover than the darker of our two colors. So any mistakes that you might make at this step will be covered very easily, very seamlessly. All right, so just to kind of complete that center piece, I'm actually just gonna take what's left on my brush and mix it with just yellow. I really want it to be lighter here in the center. So it's still going to be a really, really light yellow, but it's going to look almost white there in the center. We can kind of take what we have left on our brush and bring it down each side. All right. Now I'm going to just clean this brush and put it to the side. I'm going to move on to my flat brush. And I have two flat brushes here. I have an angled one and then just a regular flat one. If you have an angled one, I would recommend using this because it would make outlining those sections so simple. So I'll show you maybe both, but I like to, as always, dampen my brush, wet the bristles, especially if these are new brushes, you want to kind of wet them a bit, separate those bristles. And I'm going to dip into my darker yellow color here. I want to get a nice even coat on both sides of my brush. I also like to kind of make sure that there's no globs and kind of bring that paint to the very edge. Now what we'll do is we'll use this edge to our advantage. We're going to outline our sections, which I believe is called like the flesh of a lemon or citrus. Terrible, terrible word. But that's what we're doing. We're painting the flesh. I like to start just by kind of outlining every section before I fill it in with some paint. because repetition is always, always good. Repetition of steps rather than going from back and forth, outline, fill in, outline, fill in. Let's outline the sides. Then we'll outline the top, then we'll fill in. And it's okay if some of your sections have, you know, bigger gaps in between. Remember that we're painting something that's organic and real. We're not striving for realism, but just remember that things in nature are funky and mistakes will make sense. All right. So now I'm going to, again, use the flat edge to kind of, actually, you know what? At this point, the angle of this might interfere with creating that rounded edge. So you could use a round brush or just a regular flat brush like this, because I think might make things a little bit easier than if you were using the angle, because the angle is great for straight lines, not great for curves. So we'll kind of just use the flat edge like so, but we'll kind of push it up in the center to create that rounded edge. Again, doesn't need to be that perfect, you know? Use whatever you are comfortable with. Also, another reason why I like to, whoops, tipped into my other color. I'll have to make another mixture, but that is okay. I was running out of paint anyways. Another reason why I like to kind of outline these sections before I fill them in is because we're using that darker color to outline them. Then we'll mix in just the tiniest bit of white to fill in the rest. So we create the look of, you know, dimension. I have too much on my brush. Also just going and fixing any edges that aren't as crisp as I would like them to be. And depending on, you know, the status of your pencil marks, if they're shining through quite a bit, it's possible that you might want to go in with a second coat of paint. But I would say fill in the shape first, and then if you need to add like some darker yellow or a darker color over those pencil marks, you absolutely can. You can always walk away and come back to it. All right. Now the edge, I'm going to leave until the end because as you can see, I'm really holding the coaster in place. And so it wouldn't make much sense to paint the edges now and then have to paint them again because my finger went all over it. But at this point, we can mix in a little bit of white or even just a little bit of that first color here. If I were to take this color, kind of mix it in with my darker yellow, we get a nice middle ground color. Just starting at the top where we just were, using the flat side of the brush to bring that color down. And then as we make our way to the thinner part of each section, you can turn the brush around and use that edge. And paint dries, especially if you're using just like regular acrylic paint, it'll dry really fast on ceramic. So your blending, per se, the colors kind of blending together, it won't require a lot of back and forth. I think they will kind of blend very seamlessly if you just kind of do this. But if your colors are drastically different, there might be, it might not look as blended. But I really do think that these multi-surface paints dry a lot slower than regular acrylic paint because I'm not having any issues with that. But I don't know, looking back at that first one I painted, I think you could bring that color up a little bit or soften the difference between the two colors. Paint will always look a little bit different when it's dry, especially on something that's so absorbent like ceramic. All right. Now at this point, I think I will go back in those smaller sections and just kind of clean them up a bit. And I think I'll go back to using my angled brush because again, it's great for getting straight, crisp lines. So I'm going to be using just that really light color that we started with, maybe even mix in a little bit more white to cover up any areas of darker yellow. For example, like right here. Just a swipe right down. And you don't need to go over each and every space between the sections, just ones that you want to kind of clean up.
The pixel slice design is going to be in the next few days. So if they want to do again and again, more posters.
Yes. So Shirley just brought something to my attention that I want to mention to you all. We will keep this citrus slice outline available in the My Studio gallery for the next few days. So if you wanted to come back to finish, your one citrus coaster, or if you want to make more, one coaster for each citrus, you can find the same outline in the same place. So My Studio, bottom of the screen, gallery, left of the screen. All right, at this point, cleaning my brush, and I'm actually going to move back to my smaller pointed brush. And I'm going to take just some yellow. And I'm going to go back and kind of clean up that top edge and also kind of further darken it, create some dimension. Please excuse me. I'm going to stop this. Sorry. Sorry. I didn't want that to distract anybody. Mainly me. It was going to distract me. All right. Sorry about that. Yeah, I'm just kind of darkening this top line here, creating more of like a gradient. So it's really the darkest color at the very top, and it gets slightly lighter as it goes down towards the center. At this point, you could also use this as an opportunity to cover up any pencil lines just by giving it another little quick coat. You can even kind of create some scattered lines. So as you're darkening up that edge, bring, swatch down here and there, and you start to build that texture within each section. $4.55. All right. So looking good. At this point, what I have left to do is I want to paint that darker edge. But before I do that, let's add some texture with highlights. So just white. I'm going to use this same teeny tiny round brush and dip it in just a little tiny bit of white. I don't want a blob of white paint. I want the tiniest bit kind of dispersed through the tip of my brush. What we'll do is we'll kind of go right in each section, kind of just do like a dot here and there, and don't make it perfect. The one thing that I will say, a good way to make creativity unenjoyable and a great way to get caught up in what you're creating. So much to the point where if you fixate and then it becomes something completely different. Don't try to replicate the highlights. If I'm making any sense whatsoever, don't look at a citrus slice and try to replicate it with these highlights. Let's just be random with it. Don't make it perfect, because perfection will just kind of hold you back, or striving for perfection will hold you back in anything that you do. You see how I'm just kind of doing like little scattered areas. Some sections have more highlights than others. Some are thicker. Some might be a little bit longer, kind of going up. But use a really light hand and a very small amount of paint on your brush. I am. Yeah, I'm moving the coaster so that it's, better than kind of switching the direction that my brush is going in. So yeah, that's pretty much it. You could add more. I would say it's easy to get carried away at this step because it's just little bits of highlights. All right, we're looking good. Now, the final thing that I'm going to do here is just paint this edge with that first mixture of colors. So just that yellow. I'm going to need more yellow. Yellow with maybe the smallest amount of white. I'm just going to use my flat brush for this. And again, just going to kind of move the coaster around with my hands as I go. But right here, you can still see where you kind of outlined with your pencil. Great. If not, that's okay. Let's say kind of do like a little dash and then move the coaster. And then you can kind of fix it up, perfect it, if you will, after you've gone around. But as we bring this class to a close, I just want to say, first of all, thank you all so much for joining me. If you wanted to share your coasters with us and the rest of the Cupixel community, we would love to see. You can post it on Spaces right here on the app. You should be able to see that if you select your citrus outline and you go to Start, or if you go to Trace, it'll be the tab at the bottom right. It'll say Studio, and post a picture there. You can see what other people are creating with the app, give you some ideas. Because remember, you have a 2-week trial now. And we do have more coaster experiences, lots of more crafty DIY experiences, if that's what you're interested in. But also tons of, fine art. We have some educational courses here, drawing practices, abstract art, meditative art, tons of stuff. We have something for everybody. We have just under or just over 1,000 artist-led experiences for you to browse through. But my favorite part is just Spaces and seeing what other people create, because it can really inspire your own ideas. But yeah, I think it's a creativity inspiration hub, and I invite you to stick around. We have a lot of fun, and our community is great. And thank you, Kelly. I appreciate it. One last little shout out. We go live twice a week on the Cupixel app, and these live experiences are free. So if you tune in real time, you can create with me in real time for free, even if you don't stick with your free trial. But if you do, everything that you have access to on the app is free. You can upload a photo, you can create your own text, and you can enjoy 1,000 artist-led experiences to find, to address any of your needs, any and all of them. If I do say so myself, we're super proud of the content that we have here on the app and what we can create with this technology. And I hope you're excited about what you can create with it as well, and create with us too. But I want to say happy summer and enjoy the weather. I hope you guys have fun doing whatever summer plans you have lined up. And I hope you have fun exploring the Cupixel app. And of course, if you have any questions at all, you can always contact our support team by tapping the question mark icon at the top right of your screen on the app, not on Zoom, on the app. You'll see a little question mark and a speech bubble. So if you have any questions, our support team is here to help you. And then you can always comment on my Spaces posts, ask me any questions that you might have. I'm happy to answer. Anything else from my friends here?
Just saying thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this one. I know I did. And hopefully I will see you on the app. Bye.
Bye, thanks.